Welcome to this week's weekly analysis where we discuss liquidity and direction. We take into account that price will always reach for buy side or sell side liquidity or rebalance at the opposing liquidity areas. I've been inspired a lot by ICT's trading style and what he teaches. So this is just my representation or me sharing my understanding of it and sharing with you my views on a weekly point of view. It's going to be super simple. I keep it to the basics, nothing fancy. And I'm going to look at two main points. Number one, what is the most likely drawn liquidity next? How do we find that? We look at where is price most likely to rebalance or where is it most likely to reach for. Those are the two things that we look at when I'm doing a higher time frame analysis. Looking at where is price reaching for, where is it coming from. So those are the things that's important. So we're going to jump into the charts now and have a look at euro dollar and pound dollar as well. So we've started off looking at the pound dollar on the weekly time frame. So when we say rebalance, we're mostly looking at fair value gaps or imbalance areas. And when we're looking at saying, when we're talking about buy side and sell side liquidity, we're looking for previous highs and lows. So we can go into a lot of detail into previous highs and lows, and maybe I'll make a video on that. But for now, we're just going to look at the forecast for next week. So let's have a look at a few things. So looking at the weekly time frame, we can see that price has traded up and balanced itself in this weekly fair value gap or imbalance. And what's very important to note about this is that price traded into it, reacted off of it, came to test it another time, and we made a slightly lower high, or actually just relative equal highs. Price didn't really trade above it. We kind of just trading up into it, creating these equal highs, and then we traded towards the downside. We left another imbalance, fair value gap, and we see the price came, traded into it, failed to go higher. We just wicked above it and started trading lower and lower. So now we have to ask ourselves or get to the conclusion that price is most probably rebalanced going to the upside. So there's more resistance for price to go higher than there is resistance going lower. So in my head, I'm now looking for previous lows until we reach imbalance below current price to rebalance towards the downside before looking for another spectacular move towards the upside. So what's drawing my attention? Right off the bat, I'm looking at this low and I'm looking at this imbalance. Those are the two areas that's drawing my attention for next week. Well, first of all, we have previous weekly low, but it's so close to price, we might just nick it with the opening on Sunday. But that's currently what I'm looking at. I'm seeing this low, and then this imbalance. So if we follow the idea that price is most likely to rebalance and reach for sell side liquidity, because we've already now rebalanced towards the upside twice. We've rebalanced in this area, traded lower, rebalanced in this area, and there's no more imbalance to the left that we can look at. Yes, we have up here, but there's a lot of resistance before we can get towards the upside. We have that high, this high, and this high before we get to more premium imbalances above. So if we follow low resistance liquidity run theory, then the least resistance for me currently, as I'm looking at it, is towards the downside. So my bias or idea coming into next week is to see shorts. So we might see a pullback and then a continuation lower. We might see one or two up closing days in this week, but ultimately, for now, as I'm looking at price and what the information that I have now, I would expect price or see price potentially move towards the downside. If we have a look at the daily time frame, here we can see a few different things as well. We can just refine that towards daily imbalance right over there. And then on the daily, we have a few areas of liquidity. So let's just mark that as liquidity. over there. That is a significant low for me. So in my eyes, I would expect price to trade towards the downside. We've been trending lower. We've been reacting off of this imbalance, respecting buy side and moving towards the sell side liquidity. So the daily is also telling me the same thing. Yes, we can have up closing days. We can have some days that closes bullish, but ultimately my expectation is to see price trade towards the downside. So I would favor shorts coming into next week, and we'd probably be looking to hold those trades a bit longer compared to counter trend trades would be long. So yes, we can see counter trend trades because look at the many days that we had up closing days. 1, 2, 3 up closing days, we could look for buys. Another down closing day, but 1, 2 big up closing days, you can look for buys, and then ultimately see price trade lower again. And just looking again, how price is respecting that imbalance and then trading lower. So definitely, I do think sales is on the cards for the remainder of, well, for the new week on GU. So that's just my weekly outlook for GU. Let's have a look at euro dollar starting from the weekly time frame. Pretty much the same thing, same rules apply. We just don't always see a lot of imbalances on EU. So there's a little bit over there. We're just going to use this block, this sell block or order block, whatever, from this area. We see price traded back into it. And then, but what's important for me with this price action is seeing, just delete this, seeing that we filled up all the imbalance coming that's in this stretch towards the downside. If you just look at it over there, all that imbalance there, we filled all of that imbalance and cleared it out, rebalanced at it. Now coming towards the downside, we're doing the same thing and reaching for the next leg. Imbalance in there. This day traded into it. This week traded up into it, coming down lower. We see this really bearish candle towards the downside. Where is our next draw on liquidity? Well, primarily that low is up for grabs, in my opinion. But I'm not seeing any imbalance in here or anywhere else. Then we have this liquidity void or this imbalance fair value gap right over here. The price could be trading to next. So EU is not as clear for me as GU. So if you just look at GU, price action is a little bit clearer, cleaner. It shows a little bit more its hand and showing more clear levels, where EU is not, for me personally, showing itself that clearly. But we're looking at the same idea or same bias, more or less, looking for that shorts going on into next week. So that's kind of the idea that I have, is to see the shorts coming down into this area and then maybe beyond as well, potentially all the way towards the downside. So that is currently my objective. Let's have a quick look at the daily as well. Yeah, so the daily, this liquidity low, definitely something I'm interested in seeing traded to, followed then by this low as well. We can see on the daily how we've had now a couple of down closing days. So we can first expect a pullback. So we could see first price trade up and then come lower. But longer term view, that is what I have in mind. We could definitely see price trade up, react off of some of these blocks towards the upside, and then start trading lower. So that's kind of my idea and analysis for this week, knowing there's potential for buys, which would be counter trend trade, and then trying to look for the shorts, which would then be trend continuation trades. So that's it from me, a little bit of a short one, but hopefully you get an idea of what I'm looking at, and I hope you can apply this knowledge to your own trading. And yeah, have a good rest of the weekend, and I hope you have a wonderful new trading week. See you in the next one. Bye.